Welcome to Organic Chemistry Lab at the University of Texas at Austin. Today we will be going over the fractional distillation experiment. When you first enter the lab, please be sure to put your stuff away into a cubby and then put on your lab coat and goggles.
So for every lab, safety is paramount. So you're going to want to make sure you follow standard operating procedure for this experiment. Disposing of waste. All of the waste that's going to be generated in this lab is non-halogenated organic waste. So be sure and dispose it in the proper bin over by the waste disposal. You're going to be wearing gloves for this experiment. If you ever get anything on your gloves, any solvents, any chemicals on the gloves, go ahead and take them off, throw them in the trash, get yourself a fresh new set. Using organic chemicals, glassware, heating reactions, standard operating procedure must be followed for all of those elements. The chemicals that you'll be handling in this lab, you're going to get an unknown liquid sample that contains 2 of the following 7 possible liquids: acetone, methanol, hexane, cyclohexane, heptane, toluene, and ethylbenzene. There's an MSDS sheet associated with each one of those chemicals. Make sure you know it, know the safety hazards associated with each one. For this experiment, you're going to need a 100 milliliter round bottom flask, a fractioning column, distillation head, thermometer with both the glass and the rubber adapters for the thermometer, a condenser, a vacuum adapter, 3 centrifuge tubes level A, B, and C, 3 metal clamps, 2 hose clamps, 5 keck clamps, a 1-inch stir bar, and a beaker. So, of a quick overview of the experiment, you're going to set up the entire distillation apparatus. Once that's all set up, you're going to go ahead and flag me down. I'll come over and make sure everything is set up appropriately. Once I've given you the okay, you can go ahead and take your round bottom flask, go over to get the unknown sample from the sample hood. Take it back to your hood and start the distillation, monitoring the temperatures and the volumes that you're collecting. You're going to be collecting 3 fractions, A, B, and C. Once they're collected, you're going to go ahead and go and get the gas chromatograms for each fraction. You'll use the retention times to determine the identities of each of the compounds, and you'll use the peak integrations to determine the ratios of the compounds in the original sample.
To start the experiment, you must first set up the fractional distillation apparatus. First, place the 100 milliliter round bottom flask with the 1-inch stir bar onto a cork ring for later use. Attach a metal clamp to the column, trying to center it above the hot plate and/or stir plate. Next, attach the distillation head. Next, attach the rubber thermometer adapter to the glass thermometer adapter, and then connect it to the distillation head. Now insert the thermometer to the appropriate position. Now, attach the condenser to the distillation head with the glass outlets facing up. Connect the vacuum adapter and then attach the keck clamps to the appropriate glass joints. Clamp the centrifuge tube labeled A under the vacuum adapter. Next, loosely wrap the column and distillation head with cotton and then aluminum foil. Connect the water inlet and outlet hoses to the appropriate positions on the condenser, and then attach the hose clamps. Now lightly grease the glass joint on the column. Place the 100 milliliter round bottom flask into the largest hole in the aluminum heating block that is centered on the hot plate. Slowly raise it up with the lab jack until the round bottom is attached to the column. Once finished, get your TA to check out your setup. Job well done, Matthew. Some students just know it. Once your TA has given you the OK, go to the sample hood and pour out 30 milliliters of the unknown into your 100 milliliter graduated cylinder. Then, pour it into your 100 milliliter round bottom flask. You can use a large beaker to transfer the flask to and from your own hood. Place the flask back onto the hot plate and re-secure it to the column. Make sure to put a Keck clamp on it this time. Slowly turn on the water so that it flows, filling up the condenser. Wrap some aluminum foil around the distillation flask and the hot plate. Turn on the stir plate so that the stir bar is spinning gently. Turn on the hot plate to the setting as directed by your TA. After several minutes, you will notice the temperature start to rise, and at some point, it will plateau. Collect distillate in centrifuge tube A until the temperature starts to rise a second time. Switch tube A with tube B. Try to avoid losing too much distillate. Place the cap onto tube A. Continue collecting distillate in tube B until the temperature starts to plateau a second time. Now switch to tube C and place the cap onto tube B. When there's about 1 milliliter left in the distillation flask, turn off the hot plate and/or stir plate and lower it with the lap jack. When distillate has stopped dripping into tube C, remove the tube and place a cap onto it. Also turn off the water. When the apparatus has cooled, start to disassemble it. First, remove the vacuum adapter. Next, remove the hose clamps and then carefully remove the condenser. Position it so that the outlet hose is on the bottom. Now carefully remove the inlet hose and hold the column up so that the water can drain. Next, hold the inlet tube over the hood drain so that it can drain. Alternatively, you can hold it over a large beaker, as shown here. Now remove and disassemble the thermometer adapter. Remove the aluminum foil and cotton. And then remove the distillation head, followed by the distillation flask. Finally, take down the distillation column. If you have time, shoot your fractions A, B, and C on the GC or gas chromatograph. For more detail, refer to the gas chromatography video. Whether you have the time or not, save your 3 fractions properly by placing parafilm around the top of each centrifuge tube as shown here. First, cut 3 strips. Wrap each tube's cap with the parafilm so that it is sealed. Place the 3 tubes in a beaker and store them in your locker for future use. To finish up, clean your glassware as well as your hood area. For proper instructions on this, watch the Cleaning Glassware video. When you are ready to leave, return your goggles to the goggle cabinet and your lab coat to the rack. Thank you for watching. Please stay safe, and we'll see you next time.